Hi guys, Charlotte here from Not to Shop by Charlotte in the UK, and welcome to my little selection of videos talking you through all the Fusion mineral paint colours. And today we are going to be talking through the blues. I'm going to be walking you through all these lovely shades here. You've got so much choice in the blues, all the way from very pale periwinkle to china blues, to mid-tone blues, to deep dark blues, to a few sort of turquoisey shades. And I'm going to be walking you through the different sorts of tones, the darkness levels, the undertones, just to help you pick the right colour for your project. And I've said this at the beginning of all my videos, but if you're watching all of them, I'm sorry there'll be a little bit of repetition in the introduction, because I want to make sure that if someone is just going to their specific video, if they're just interested in blues, that they get all the information, they don't miss anything. So my top tips are you should always be selecting your colour in the room, because in the room that's going to be used, because the lighting is going to be different in every single room. You might have lots of natural light or lots of synthetic light, depending on which bulbs you've got. You might have blue light or yellow tone light or white light. And all of these things, light has a massive impact on how we read colours. So that's really, really important. If you choose a colour in store light or out in the street and then bring it into your house, it will look completely different. You need to pick it in the place where it's going to be all the time, where you're going to see it. So that's important. And then I would like to tell you that hopefully these videos will help you to understand the colour range and understand the different characteristics of the different colours, in this case the Fusion Mineral Paint Blues. But there are other ways that you can choose your colour. So Fusion do true colour cards, and when I say true to colour, a lot of colour cards are a bit rubbish, they're not very good, but the Fusion ones are perfect. They are like painted swatches, so they are the perfect the exact same finish, the exact same colour as your paint will dry. So it's really important not to choose your colour from wet paint or through a jar, because the jars are made of plastic, which has reflection and which will tint your colour, and there's a lot of water content in there which will evaporate as your paint dries, and we all know that paint dries on most occasions a little bit darker. So selecting the colour and falling in love with the colour from the wet version of the paint is sadly going to lead to disappointment, because that's not the colour the paint's going to dry, and the Fusion True colour cards will show you the colour as it dries. So they are brilliant. They're only £2.99. You can buy them off my website. And then another way is you can buy a tester pot, which I just showed you. So these are 37mm tester pots. They are project pots. They go miles. Using, obviously different colours have different coverage, but ash is a great coverage colour. And I painted a chair 2 coats. No, I'm lying to you. It wasn't ash. It was midnight blue. I'm looking at it in front of me. I painted a chair 2 coats of midnight blue, one whole chair from one tester pot of these. So that just gives you an idea of how far it goes. It is blooming amazing, brilliant paint. But as well as being good project pots, these testers are awesome for you to try your colours at home. So if you're on and on between a few colours, you don't have to buy a full pot. You can buy a couple of testers, do some samples on your wall, on your piece of furniture, on a piece of paper, and you can see which colour works well in your room. So that's a little short introduction. Oh, and the fan decks. And then the third way is by using the Fusion Mineral Paint fan decks. Now, these fan decks are awesome. I can't remember the price off the top of my head, I'm sorry. I think they're about 20 quid, but they have much larger swatches than on the colour cards, and you can sort of spin them around to create different colour schemes, and you can compare them against other colours in your room to see how they're going to match. And what's awesome about them is, as well as having the full range of Fusion Mineral Paint colours and the metallics, they also have over 50 recipes at the back, so you can create additional colours just by mixing 2 of the Fusion colours together. Those recipes are really helpful if you want some additional shades in your painting arsenal. Okay, so shall we, now we've run through that in a little bit of detail, shall we actually start to look at the colours, because this is the exciting bit. Look how beautiful all these colours are. So let's start with a pale. I'm getting cramp in my hand from trying to hold this fan all aesthetically like that, so let's put some of them down. And let's start by looking at the paler shades. So here we have Mist, Little Whale, French Eggshell, Heirloom, Champness and Paisley. And you can see these go from very pale blue all the way through to the mid-tone blues, and then we'll look at the darker ones later. Now, maybe I should have included in this video, but otherwise it would just get really, really long. When I went through the greys in my grey video, there are some greys that have very cool blue undertones to them. So if you are looking for some more pale shades, maybe you want to go and have a look at my grey video and see if any of the pale greys would suit as a sort of complementary neutral, or a paler shade sort of off the end of here, paler than mist, and there'll be some options in there for you. Or alternatively, pick your favourite shade, mix it with a pale grey or your white and create your own. But for today we're talking through the existing ranges. So here, let's start with Mist. Mist is beautiful, quite a new colour. It's really soft and romantic. It's got almost a sort of periwinkle feel to it. You can see in comparison to these all look a little bit green, a little bit yellow in comparison to that, and that's because Mist has very sort of purpley undertones. It's a very pale, soft, purpley blue. So it's beautiful for children's bedrooms, for if you want to have something soft and romantic. Mist is a yummy, yummy colour, so that's where we are starting with. And then if you move on to Little Whale, I'm going to take Mist away because this is a great example of how what colours you put next to each other, how they can tint your perspective, because putting Mist next to Little Whale, it makes Little Whale look quite green, but when we take it away, it's not green at all. That's just confusing. So Little Whale is part of our, I like to explain the names as well because they're quite cool. So we have, back in the day when put your teeth back in, Sean. Back in the day when Jenny Lind started the Fusion Mineral Paint Company, as she has grown through her life, she has seen gaps in the market and seen paints and things that she needs. And she had a lovely little boy, and when he was a baby, she wanted to paint his nursery. So she created a range of paints with specific lovely pastel shades, beautiful for nurseries, and they were all named after nursery rhymes. So we had Little Whale, which is this one here. Let me see if I can remember the one. We had Little Whale, we had Little Stork, which was sort of a pink, we had Little Star, which is a yellow, Little Frog, which is a green, Little Lamb, which is a grey, and I'm sure I've forgotten another purpley one. But anyway, that's not important for now, but I just like to tell you little stories. So Little Whale was part of that range, which gives you an idea of the kind of shade that it is. It is a lovely, pale, soft, pastel blue shade. And if you wanted to go a little bit darker, you could move on to French Eggshell, which you can see has a little bit more depth to it, a little bit more pigment in it. And French Eggshell is what I would call sort of a traditional duck egg shade, but it's a little bit more sophisticated. It's a little bit more greyed off. It's not sort of bright and garish. We moved it into a slightly more modern feel. So that's here with French Eggshell. You can see it's a little bit greener because French Eggshell isn't sort of like a cool blue, it's a yellowy toned blue. And then if you don't like those yellowy tones, if you want something a bit more traditional blue, you could look at Heirloom. And you see the intensity of that colour? That's got a lot of pigment in it. That's really quite deep for a mid-toned. It's not pastel at all. If you compare it to Little Whale, so we've got Little Whale and Heirloom. There's a lot more intensity in that colour, even though it's a mid-toned colour. So that is a really beautiful shade. And then next we have Champness. So you can see that that is much bluer. The French Eggshell and the Heirloom have sort of slightly green tinges to them. And if you put that in your scheme, it doesn't work. It looks too green, it clashes. Then you want something a little bit more traditional blue. Then Champness is moving a little bit more towards the blue tones. And then we have Paisley, which is a gorgeous shade. I have a piece of furniture in my studio painted in this, which I've put lime and wax over, and they are heavenly together. And you can see that Paisley is more greyed off. It's a slightly greyed version of these. So it's a very blue-grey or a slightly grey blue, depending on which way you want to look at it. And that is a really lovely vintage feel. What does it say? An ode to our heritage, inspired by the river's edge that runs through the beautiful town of Paisley in Scotland. This multi-tone blue evokes a whimsical feel. So there you go. So that shows you just in the mid-tones of blues, you have those shades to choose from. Some of them are quite close, but Fusion are very clever at this and very considerate that they like to give us lots of options if one of them isn't quite right. So there, just a quick run through again. Little Whale, French Eggshell, Heirloom, Champness and Paisley. They are your mid-tone blues. Shall we start to move on to the slightly darker tone blues? Let me fan them out. Okay, so on screen, a lot of these will look quite similar, but I'm going to walk you through the slightly different tones in them and compare them and help you to understand, because in reality, in your room, these different shades will look quite different and you will have strong feelings as to which one is right for you. So let's just name them all first. We've got Seaside, Blue Pine, Homestead Blue, Cambridge, Willowbank, Liberty Blue, Chestler and Midnight Blue. So let's start at this sort of paler end of the darker end of the mid-tone, whichever you want to call it. Seaside is yummy. That's the colour of my front door at the church, and I love it. Excuse me. It has, how do I explain it? Very slight tealiness to it, but subtle. It's really, really beautiful. And I think if you compare it to Homestead Blue, those two are quite similar. So we've got Seaside and Homestead Blue, which are quite similar, but they do different jobs. Seaside is fresher and, like we said, a tiny bit greener, whereas Homestead Blue is a bit greyer, a little bit darker, a little bit, greyer and darker. I can't think of another way to say it. So those two are friends, they are partners. There's not that much in it, but if Homestead Blue is a bit flat for you and you want a bit of a lift, then Seaside is the one for you. If Seaside is a bit bright, you want something a bit more vintage, a bit softer, a bit more greyed off, then Homestead Blue will do the job. So that's those two. And then next, I need more hands for these videos. So then next we'll pop those two down. Next we've got Blue Pine. Now let's put Blue Pine next to Paisley for you because they go together really nicely. Blue Pine and Paisley were introduced together. They came out in the same range and you can see how they have the same kind of tones to them. Blue Pine is just a much darker shade. So they're both soft and greyed off. I know I say that a lot, but it's just an easy way to explain. Some colours are really clean. They don't have multiple pigments in them. They are bright and punchy. They're either sort of quite primary or secondary, and they're much brighter and fresher. Whereas the more pigments you add together, the more they get greyed off and the more you get a sophisticated, softer shade, and that is what happens to create colours like this. So here we've got Paisley and Blue Pine. They are soft grey blues of a sort of a mid-tone and a slightly darker tone if that is what you're looking for. Next. Okay. Let's do this little collection together. So we have got here Cambridge, Willowbank, Liberty Blue, Chestler and Midnight Blue. Now I'm going to take Liberty Blue out. Butterfingers again. I'm going to take Liberty Blue out and talk to you about Liberty Blue. Now this, I don't know what it's looking like on your screen, but it's not reading well on my screen at all. This is quite a primary, true, punchy blue, sort of like school jumpers. And because it's quite a primary shade, it is not my favourite to paint with. This colour, you need to be prepared. It's worth it because it's a gorgeous shade, but if you love it and you want to use it, you've got a couple of options. You're either going to need to do 3 or 4 coats to get full coverage, or if you use Midnight Blue as a base shade or another dark blue as a base shade to get good coverage, and then just put a couple of coats of this on top, it's going to save you time. It's going to be easier because it will look very sheer when you paint it the first time. And you'll think you've done something wrong, you'll think maybe the paint's faulty. No, it's just to create these really bright colours that they're in the range because people want them, people love them, but they're a little bit more hard work. So you've not done anything wrong, I just want to prepare you. If you use Liberty Blue, it's going to take a few extra coats. So either a few extra coats or put a nice dark colour like Midnight Blue underneath it as a base coat to get your base coverage first. Prepare yourself. It's worth it, but it's not fun. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm trying to do this on my knee, which is probably a silly idea. Okay, so these ones here, so these are your dark shades. So Cambridge, I am going to pull out, I've pulled out ready for you, Ash, to show you the difference, because Ash is our true charcoal grey, and I think it's helpful to have a comparison. Oh, there, does that work better if I hold it back? There you go. So this is Ash, and this is Cambridge, and you can see when the light catches it how much more blue it's got in it, how much paler it is, and this is a really sophisticated, steely, dark blue shade, very, very popular. And then you've got Willowbank. Am I doing this? There you go, there you go. If I hold the back like that, that's much better. Then you've got Willowbank, which you can see is more saturated. It's more tealy. It's got slightly more green to it, I would say. And it is much fresher. Cambridge is very sort of greyed off. It's a dark grey with blue tones to it. Whereas Willowbank is much fresher, I would say. Let's compare it to... Let's pull out... Put these together. So here we have got Seaside, Willowbank and Homestead Blue. You can see that Willowbank is in the same kind of family. It is a lovely, lovely shade of blue, but it is just a move on from those. It is a bit darker. So if you love Seaside or Homestead Blue and you just want a slightly darker shade, trying to put it so the light catches it, you can see that Willowbank is one stage up on the tones. It's that little bit darker. So that is beautiful there. And then next we have Chesler and Midnight Blue. Now, oh my God, Midnight Blue is such a popular colour. It is a really deep, deep blue, which can almost read black in certain lights if you've got very low light and it's very dark. And it was so popular that Fusion wanted to give people sort of slight move-ons, slight different changes, a little bit of variety. And so that's where Chesler came from. And if you look, Chesler is just that little bit greener, that little bit tealier, that little bit oilier. So Chesler is similar to Midnight Blue, whereas Midnight Blue is more traditional, crisp, very dark navy. Chesler is just that little bit greener. Don't know how these are reading particularly well, but hopefully my descriptions are helping you if you're looking at your own fan deck or you're looking at your own colour card at the same time. So there you go, Midnight Blue and Chesler. So I think, yeah, we've been through all of the blues there, starting at Mist, which is the palest, going all the way through the tones to Midnight Blue, which is absolutely the darkest navy. I hope that was really, really helpful, helping you pick the correct blue shade for your project. And if you have any additional questions, you can find me on Facebook, on my website. All my contact details are on both of those, email, phone, Messenger, etc. I love to answer your questions and help you guys with your projects. I could talk about painting all day, in particular Fusion Mineral Paint and Fusion Milk Paint. So don't hesitate to ask me questions. Yeah, and if you want to see any of my other videos, this was my video about the blue tones, but I've got a video about greens, about neutrals, about greys, about the reds and oranges. So you can pop and find those if they are going to be helpful to you. Cheers, bye. Hi everybody, so silly me, it turns out I put these down and forgot to talk you through these three shades at the end of my blue video. So we talked through all the sort of softer blues, the navy blues, the darker blues, but these three are more sort of turquoise blues. So we have Little Teapot, Azure and Renfrew Blue. And these are all vibrant shades that are really gonna get attention in your scheme, on your piece of furniture, whatever you're painting. You can see that Little Teapot was from the nursery range a few years ago, and that is a lovely soft pastel kind of shade, but very much a blue, but with slight green tones to it and make it sort of very slightly turquoisey instead of like a china blue. And then you've got Azure, which is gorgeous, which is just so bright, mega statement, really popular. Looks amazing if you're trying to make a statement with yellows and pinks and oranges, though, you know what I mean, putting those contrasting colours next to each other really make them pop. But it also will bring a little bit of life to a project if you want to put it next to complementary colours, other shades of blue. So that is really lovely. And then you've got Renfrew Blue, which is our darker teal, our darker turquoisey shade. I couldn't have to think of the word turquoise then. Our darker turquoisey shade. So that gives you three tealy, turquoisey, I guess going through from turquoise to teal. Three options there. So apologies for missing those off the video, but I've added them on now. Happy painting, guys.